Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, let's see. You can tell a video that I'm excited about in the morning when you turn on this video. If my hair looks like this means I just got out of the shower. I didn't even finish drying my hair. I just ran a towel through it and I came out here because I was excited about doing this video. That's the truth. You could really tell like how excited I am about the video by how if my hair is a bigger mess because I haven't dried it, that means I'm really excited about the video. And that's where I'm at today. This morning, I already had a video all set to go. I did a video about Hulk Hogan and Mike Lindell and some of just the ridiculous things they're saying. And why is it that older white males are the majority of older white males are Trump supporters? And that's that video. That's the video I made. And that's what I was going to download this morning. And I'm still going to download that. But I have something more important that I'm going to talk about, okay? This is like a podcast from a Theo, a comedian, I guess. I've never heard of him. And he's interviewing Donald Trump. Now, in this case, I am not a Trump supporter. I can't stand Donald Trump. I've said this before. I would sooner cut off my right arm than vote for Donald Trump. And I say that in all seriousness. But I'm really not going to slam Donald Trump too much in this video. I've been clean and sober for almost 18 years. I was a full-blown addict, addicted to heroin and crack cocaine every day. Alcohol, pills, heroin, crack cocaine every day. And there's a few things that he says that they talk about in this video. I guess Theo is a recovering addict, apparently, a recovering cocaine addict. And there's a few things they talk about in this video. And it made me come up with an analogy about how drugs affect your brain and why I'll never use again. You know, it's a pretty apt analogy, and I want to talk about that in a second. Let me start with Donald Trump and this whole conversation here. Honestly, Trump doesn't say anything more ridiculous, or I shouldn't say ridiculous, but more, usually when you're talking to older baby boomers, they really don't have a clear understanding about drugs. So whenever you talk to older baby boomers, like people that were born in the 40s, and I'm not saying this to bust on anybody, but usually when you talk to people that like in their 70s or 80s that were born in the 40s, they really don't understand how drugs work, how they make you feel. And they more than that, they don't understand addiction. And in order to battle addiction, in order to deal with addicts and try to get people to recover, you have to understand what addiction is. A lot of times, people this age grew up with alcohol, and they compare everything to alcohol. You know, drugs, like they compare, when they hear marijuana, coke, heroin, they compare it to, how does it make you feel like alcohol? And whenever I hear that, it makes me cringe because it's like comparing apples and oranges. They're just nothing. They are so different. I can't even put into words. And then when you talk about the individual drugs like cocaine and heroin, they are so different, and marijuana, they are so different in amongst themselves that you can't compare them to each other, really. There's something Donald Trump says in this video. I mean, he says a lot of stupid, false statements, but not in this video. I mean, in general. But in this video, he sounds, to me, he sounds like a typical older baby boomer. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I think it's fortunate that a lot of these people grew up before drugs were so prevalent. He says that he talks about opiates and fentanyl, and he says that he makes this statement that the way he understands it, you get addicted to fentanyl quickly, like in 2 weeks. That he actually says this. Let me tell you this: I have used the harder opiates like morphine and some other drugs, heroin, and after one use, 1 or 2 days. It's hard to put this into days because when you use these drugs, you're up for an amount of time that you can't really register. You know, you're up day and night and day and night. So I'd say like after a day or two of using something like this, I was addicted. I was physically addicted, and I didn't even realize it. I was working at I was an architectural draftsman, and I was working in a draft. This is before the addiction got really bad, and I was still working. And I couldn't sleep at night. I had just taken morphine a couple nights. And I couldn't sleep at all. I had restless legs all night, and I had to keep leaving my desk to run to the bathroom. I had diarrhea all day and all night. Couldn't eat. My stomach was all tossing and turning. I was agitated. My nose was running. Seriously. And it was about 6 months later, and I had been using and drinking for, at this point already I was probably about 30 years old at this point. And I didn't realize, this is when I first started using opiates. I'd been addicted to cocaine since my teens, but this is when I first started using opiates. And I didn't realize that I was actually having physical withdrawals after just using these opiates for 1 or 2 days. Seriously. So you become physically addicted so ridiculously fast. You can't even put into words. Okay, here's an analogy. When you talk about addiction and you talk to people this age, a lot of times, they picture just, drug addicts. I remember a TV show, Vinnie Barbarino, John Travolta, Welcome Back, Carter. And one of them was, I think, Freddie Washington was addicted to drugs, and they were trying to pretend, the Sweat Hogs were trying to pretend they were on drugs, and John Travolta was doing this imitation of a drug addict, and he was going back and forth in front of the camera, going, "Give me drugs, give me drugs, give me drugs," And honestly, I mean, drug addiction is not funny, but that cracked me up so much, and it makes me think that is how people in their 70s, people that, these older baby boomers view addiction. Give me drugs, people that don't have any willpower. I came up with this analogy, and I'm surprised. I'm kind of proud of myself for this analogy. The way that these drugs affect you, like cocaine and opiates, they affect you in 2 very different ways. They both affect your dopamine and neurotransmitters, and I'm going to talk about that. This analogy talks about that. One slows down your cardiovascular system and relaxes you, the opiates. The other one speeds up your cardiovascular system and excites you, and both give you a feeling of euphoria. They affect you physically, mentally, emotionally. Here's the analogy. Say you have $100, okay? And $100, and that's all you could use to buy food, to eat, to nourish yourself for 7 days. $100. Now that $100, I'm comparing that to the neurotransmitters in your brain, the dopamine. You have this limited supply, and if you use it right, like exercise, go to a birthday party, the dopamine is released slowly, and you're rewarded with feel good pleasure. Like, it makes you feel good. It gives you pleasure. Like the runner's high, or going to your kid's birthday party. You feel this love and satisfaction, and after you go home, you're happy. That's dopamine. Those are neurotransmitters, and your body naturally has enough and produces enough for a normal amount for a normal amount of time. Now, compare this. Say you took that $100, right, and instead of feeding yourself normally, like with fruits and vegetables and a little meat, like, whatever, $12 a day for 7 days. You can just enough to feed yourself for breakfast, lunch, and supper, just, little, I'm not counting for inflation here. Okay, so it would feed you, it would keep you healthy and fit for those 7 days. But say you took that $100 and you spent it all on Hershey chocolate bars, like $100 worth of Hershey chocolate bars the first day. And you just ate and you did because it tastes so good. And when I eat chocolate, maybe it's because of my addictive tendencies, I can't stop. Even though I'm full, my stomach's hurting. I keep getting that. You want more. You want another bite, even though you're not hungry. Like with Doritos, you eat them and you just have to have another one. Okay, so say you spend that $100 on chocolate bars and you eat all the chocolate bars in one afternoon. Obviously, how are you going to feel? You're going to feel immediately terrible the next day, or following when you finish the chocolate bars. You're going to crash. You're going to have a sugar crash, and it's going to harm your body for the following week because you're not going to have anything to eat. And that's the same way. That's the analogy. The money is your neurotransmitters, your dopamine. You have a limited supply. Your brain can only produce so much. These drugs shoot them all off at once. and you feel great. You know, I remember this one time. I still remember this. I was driving my car, unfortunately, and I had been using cocaine and heroin, or cocaine and morphine. And I remember driving to my girlfriend's house, and I was on this Route 6 here in town. And I remember this feeling of just the most euphoric. Like I did not have one problem in the world. Like whatever I did, I was thinking, it's like I could pull over and just walk through that field right now, and it would be the best thing I ever did. I would be the happiest I've ever been just walking through that field. I could walk through that mud puddle, and I would be the happiest that I've ever been in my life. Like no problems, like just the greatest day on earth. I could do, no matter what I do, it's the best day on earth, like the best day I've ever lived. You know, and it was this euphoric feeling where there's no problems, no downside. Everything is fantastic. No matter what I do, it's the greatest. You know, I'm not worried about a thing. But like I said, you know, that means all of your dopamine and the neurotransmitters are all blowing off at once, you know, and then, you know, a lot of, you don't hear a lot of addicts talk about this the next day or as soon as that stuff wears off. You pay for that. You always pay. You know, you can't get away with anything for free. You know, and you crash. As far as you go up, you go twice as far down. That's my opinion. You know, so as good as I felt at that moment, later that day or the next day, I felt twice as bad. You know, everything sucked. There's nothing I could do to make me feel good at this moment. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I'm not happy. You know, you could give me $1 million and I'm going to feel terrible. You know, that's the other side of the coin. You have no happiness, no joy, because the neurotransmitters and the dopamine have all been released and nothing gives you joy. And it's the most depressing, hopeless, terrible feeling you have ever felt in your life. You know, you hear people talk about depression, and it's not just, oh, I don't feel, you know, I'm not happy. I mean, it is just a black, hopeless. It means, you know, like I am miserable, and I am going to always be miserable, and nothing is ever going to make me feel happy again. You know, it's just the blackest place you could ever be when you run out of these neurotransmitters, this dopamine, or when you have depression. So that's my analogy. It's, you know, and this is what keeps me from using, because back when I used to use, I was short-sighted. I wanted instant gratification. You know, I wanted to feel that euphoria, even though in the back of my head, I know I'm going to spend all that money and I'm going to crash the next day. But I was short-sighted, and I just wanted that instant gratification. I just wanted to feel good right now. I didn't care the price I had to pay later. Now I understand. Now I ask myself, why? First of all, I'm happy right now. You know, I'm happy doing my workout. I'm happy doing push-ups. I am. It makes me feel good. It doesn't make me feel euphoric, but it makes me feel good. It makes me feel satisfied, like I accomplished something, a natural, normal feeling of fulfillment. And I'm happy with that. And I don't want to pay. I'm more long-term orientated now. You know, now that I'm in recovery, I think about, you know, next week. You know, I want to be able to pay my bills. I don't want to be miserable next week, because if I'm miserable next week, it's going to make me want that short-term gratification again, and it's just a vicious circle. If I just live normally and I'm just satisfied with normal, everyday fulfillment, I will be happy. I will be happier than I've ever been, just living a normal life, dealing with day-to-day issues and solving problems and getting gratification from that. Getting gratification even from the bad days by solving problems. You know, I accomplished that. I climbed that hill. I feel great. Now I could climb a bigger hill. And it's the exact opposite when you're using, you know, because you know, no matter what, you're going to feel terrible tomorrow. You're going to feel even worse every day. And there's going to be more problems because if you're using and your addiction and your money issues, and things are just going to get worse and worse and worse, and you don't see any way out of it, and the hole just gets deeper and deeper and darker, and you say, you know, this is it. This is the last run of my life. You know, I might as well just try to feel as good as I can for the days I got left. It's a very hopeless, bleak way to feel. And I'm so thankful every day that I'm in recovery. Recovery is possible. The point of this video is not to glorify drugs. The point of this video is to emphasize that recovery is possible. I've been clean and sober since October 23rd of 2006, coming on 18 years, and these have been the best years of my life. Best family, best with finances, happiness, everything. The best 18 years I've ever had on this earth were the last 18 years clean and sober. Recovery is possible. Have a good Thursday.